Okay, so finally, we talk about an initial value problem. So which means we have the initial value x of 0 and also the first derivative of x evaluated as 0. So in this case, we will be able to determine C1 and C2 uniquely. Okay, so here let's take a look at this equation 5. Okay, so here we have an x double prime plus x equals 4t equals 10 sine of t. Okay, so first we would like to make the right hand side to be zeros, which means we have x double prime plus x equals 0. So so this is nothing but s squared plus y equals 0. So in this case, s equals plus or minus I. S equals plus or minus I or plus or minus j. Okay, so so this is a pure imaginary function. So which means we have an exponential to 0t. Okay, so the real part is 0. So exponential to 0t is 1. Okay, so we don't have the exponential term. Okay, because it's tend to be a constant 1 there. So for the imaginary part is plus or minus 1i, okay, I plus or minus I is plus or minus 1i. So here we have 1 times t, which is t, 1 times t, okay, c1 times cosine of t plus c2 times sine of t. So this is the complementary solution. Okay, so here you can see this one is the same as this one, okay. So here we would like to have, okay, so first of all, this is a first order polynomial. So based on this, we assume xp of part of xp of t to be a plus bt, and then this is sine of t. So originally, if you just ignore the homogeneous solution, you will assume the other part of the xp will be like a c cosine of t plus t sine of t. Okay, but in that case, it will be conflict with this one, so we need to multiply it by t. Okay, actually, for the complete xp of t, it is like, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4 term. Okay, so actually, if you are confident enough, you can do it in one shot. Okay, so xp of t, okay, the whole thing plug in the left side, okay, and then you compute it directly. Okay, if you feel it is too complicated, actually you can solve it one by one. Okay, what I mean is that here what you have is like x double prime plus x equals 40 plus 10 sine of t. Okay, so first of all, we already get xc of t to be a cosine of t plus b sine of t, and then we also assume xp of t to be okay, so here we use C1, C2 instead, C1, C2. Okay, so xp of t, we will make it like a plus bt and then plus ct cosine of t plus dt sine of t. Okay, so you can solve it in one shot. Okay, you plug in this one to the left hand side and then solve ABCD directly, or if you feel, oh, this is too complicated, you can substitute it into two parts. Okay, one part is x double prime plus x equals 40, and then the other part is x double prime plus x equals 10 sine of t. Yeah, why we can do that? Because it is linear. So we can have, okay, let's say xc of t to be c1 cosine of t plus c2 cosine of t for both case. Yeah, but here xp1 of t will be a plus bt, and then xp2 of t will be ct cosine of t plus dt sine of t, and then you plug in this one to there, and then you plug in this one to there to solve for xp1 and xp2. And then finally, the solution will be xc plus xp1 plus xp2. Okay, so you will get the same answer. You will get the same answer. Yeah, but here I just show you. Okay, I just assume xp to be the whole thing, and then plug it in the whole equation. So it is like, okay, so the whole thing double prime plus the whole thing equals 4t plus 10 sine of t. And then you take the second derivative through this stuff, and then plus this stuff, it becomes something like this, and then plus this one. Okay, I don't try to go through, and then you can try to practice it by yourself if you have interest. So yeah, try to practice this is useful because maybe occur in later exams. Okay, so so we try to collect the terms. So we actually have 4 terms. Okay, so on the right side we will have a constant term that is 0, and then the first order term 4t, and then we don't have cosine, which means it is 0 times cosine of t, and then we have 10 sine of t. So on the left side we can also collect the terms like a plus bt minus 2d times cosine of t minus 2c times sine of t. Okay, so it's just some algebraic computation. Okay, so and then we try to compare the coefficients. So we get a equals 0, b equals 4, negative 2d equals 0, negative 2c equals 10. Okay, like this. So finally you get a to be 0, b to be 4, c to be negative 5, d to be 0. So we just plug these 4 values back to here, xp. Okay, so we will get, okay, so this is the particular solution, okay, only with 2 terms because 2 of these variables are 0. So we only get 4t minus 5t cosine of t. And then here is the homogeneous solution or the complementary solution. Okay, if we don't have the initial value, x of 0 to be 5, x prime of 0 to be 1, then it is already done. Okay, this is the complete solution. C1, C2 can take arbitrary value, but here we have the initial values, for the original function and the first derivative. So we should determine C1, C2 uniquely. Okay, so in the next page, okay, so here, okay, we have this one and these 2 conditions, and then here we also get the solution of 5 is this one. We just write it here. Okay, so here we try to take the first derivative. Yeah, because we want to find x of 0 to be 5. So which means here we change t to be 0. Okay, for this expression we will be able to get an equation related to this initial value. Okay, but we still need to get x prime of 0. So which means we would like to take the first derivative of x. So x prime of t will be, okay, cosine becomes negative sine, sine becomes cosine, 4t becomes 4, negative 5t cosine t becomes negative 5 cosine t here, and then cosine t becomes negative sine, so plus 5t sine of t goes to here. Okay, so this is the first derivative of x. Okay, first derivative of x with respect to time. Okay, so here we can plug in t to be 0 for x, so x of 0 to be blah 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 blah, okay, equals 5, like this. Okay, so cosine of 0 is 1, sine of 0 is 0, 4 times 0 is 0, cosine of 0 is 1, but this one is 0. Okay, so 0, 0, 0. So we only get C1 equals 5. Okay, C1 equals 5. And then similarly, we plug in t to be 0 for this equation. So blah 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 like this equals 1. Okay, equals 1. Okay, so here similarly, sine of 0 is 0, cosine of 0 is 1. This is 4. 4 is 4. Okay, so this is 1. Okay, so minus 5. And then this is 0. This is 0. So it turns out to be Z2. C2 is here. Plus 4 minus 5 equals 1. So finally we get C2 to be 2. C2 to be 2. Okay, so finally we will get C1 to be 5, C2 to be 2. So the complete solution x of t should be 5 cosine of t plus 2 sine of t plus 4t minus 5t cosine of t. Okay, so this is the only function of this form satisfy these initial values 就是说如果没有 initial values 的话，这个是 complete solution， 这个是完整的解。C1 C2 可以任何的值。那我们有 initial value 的话，我们可以唯一的求出这一个。那所以这一个 xt 是这个 xt 里面的其中一个唯一一个会满足这个起始条件的，唯一一个满足起始条件。Okay, so yeah, so this is March 27. Okay.